e-power is open for business, one of the major discoveries in Canada.
Companies who use graphite in a manufacturing process in North America or possibly in Europe are going to eventually own this project. They have to.
Hi, everybody. It's Jean-Michel from Invercio, and today we are with James Cross, CEO of ePower Resources. How you doing, James?
Doing okay. How about you?
Not bad, not bad, not bad. It's you know, summer is gone. Now we're slowly making the walk towards winter. It's been a while since we talked about 6 weeks. I want to
Yeah.
know, so there's been some news coming out from your end. Like I know that you closed 2 out of 3 tranches for you raised capital, and how's that going?
Yeah, we set out to raise 420,000 in a hard dollar private placement at 5 cents, with a half warrant at 10, and we've closed 2 tranches thus far for about 370,000, and it looks as though we'll go a little bit over the original 420 we were aiming for. And really, since we've gone public, it's the first time we've been able to do that. So the financing went a little bit better than expected.
And so that's really some good positive fuel, especially with the way the markets have been handling. Also, tough times because there's an election that was on the horizon, and now that's gone. But during that time, you're raising capital, and I know for a lot of investors, politics always plays a game because they don't know what the next day, if it'll actually have an impact. And I personally have always been a firm believer that politics are all nice and dandy, but the next, the day after the election, it's never the end of the world.
Right, exactly. And really for what we're doing, being in graphite, I don't think the election really had any bearing one way or another. North America needs a whole lot more graphite production than it currently has. Whether EVs are heavily subsidized or not subsidized, the continent still needs domestic supply of essential and strategic resources like graphite.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, especially since there's always this situation that's happening with China, and now I know some of the Canada and the United States have put some embargo on Chinese manufactured electric cars, but like you said, that doesn't change our need. Actually, one could almost think that it just solidifies our greater need for
Yeah, that's
graphite.
right. That's right. If more electric vehicles are going to be produced, in the North American continent rather than in China and imported, it only makes sense to produce the graphite somewhere near the factory that's going to build the car. And you also have defense-related applications as well. So, graphite is essential to national defense, and has been singled out as one of the critical minerals. The Department of Defense is really looking to make grants within, and there are only 2 notable projects in the U.S. and about another 8 in Canada, and they've already started allocating some capital to Canadian projects. So there aren't many places they can put that capital. So we've always got a shot because there are only a few projects out there.
And since you're talking about national defense, are you using some of your old contacts from your days when you were an MP?
Well, my contacts sadly aren't so fresh anymore. They've the old guard's being replaced. So no, I can't say that's really helpful.
Well, you never know. It's worth a shot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'll pull the card if need be.
And I just I saw that you recently had some results from your bulk sampling that you did in your I always have a hard time with the pronunciation. Titis, Titispica?
Tetapisca. Yeah.
Tetipisca, there we go.
Right.
my French inflection is betraying me.
Yeah, we had some really good bulk sampling results from that we reported back in August. And one of the things we were able to do on the property as well that we'd never done before was visited the northern end of the property, which is actually even closer to the southern part of our property to Nouveau Mond's Ouatnon deposit. And there were some very high grade samples taken on the ground there during some beat mat work. And so that we're very encouraged by that part of the property as well. And that could result in, perhaps yet another graphite deposit and possibly a world-class graphite deposit. It's early to know that, but the results were very encouraging.
And now that we know, well, you'll be closing your financing soon. So I'm guessing the bulk of that hard dollar is going to work on the property. So I was wondering if you could just walk us a little bit of walk us through, like, what are your expectations for 2025 regarding the work that you feel that needs to be done? And I know you have to manage, the cash that the shareholders have decide to invest. So are there, like, you have different projections, I imagine, of, okay, this is what I absolutely need to be done, and this is part of my wish list. So I don't know if you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess how much work we do on the property is, a function of the capital markets or the health of the capital markets in two ways. One is the capital out there to do everything we want to do. And two is our share price at a level at which we want to be raising a lot of capital. Now, our property or our land package, we already know is one of only 10 notable, sizable projects in the North American continent, graphite projects in the North American continent. So it's nice to be able to do additional work and to prove that yet further and further de-risk it for a potential acquirer of the project. Because we think, ultimately the companies who use graphite in a manufacturing process in North America or possibly in Europe are going to eventually own this project. They have to. And the continent has 10, while it needs probably about 40, given the projected expansion in demand for graphite. So we already know, and they already know, this is one of those 10. So we're careful not to do a tremendous amount of work at low equity prices because we're going to have to significantly dilute ourselves. So if the markets, are healthy and our share price is also healthy, we would like to, ultimately put a 43101 graphite resource on the books. But the price tag on that might be something like $4 million. Oh. And, right now our market cap is, 2 point something. And so, doing it right now probably wouldn't be a good idea, especially as we don't really feel we need it. These manufacturers who need graphite don't really know what 43101 is. That's more of a Bay Street requirement than anything else. So, that's something we would like to do, but we won't do all that work if it's going to mean serious dilution for shareholders, because we don't feel really we desperately need to do that.
Mm-hmm. I get it. And so for 2025, so you did some bulk sampling in August. You got some good results. For 2025, what are you expecting to do?
Well, we're expecting, which is a high impact, low cost thing, is to be able to deliver to manufacturing companies who use graphite in their production process, like an electric vehicle battery manufacturer or someone else. Deliver them some graphite and let them do the proper amount of testing they'd like to do on it. And then, if they say, hey, this is the right stuff, then at that point, we could drill out of that right stuff, at least an in-house resource estimate sufficient for their needs. Now, how does the financing come from that? It could just come from private placement, but if a manufacturer likes the product and he's taken the time and energy to run tests on it and knows he needs it, perhaps that industrial player would be willing to fund exploration, one way or another, through some kind of offtake agreement or even private placement financing. So we want to, because marketing to retail hasn't been all that effective. Our shares are at 5 cents. We're successfully raising capital, so that's good. But still, the equity price is not really there. So marketing to retail hasn't really helped all that much. So we want to market to those industrial end users because that can lead to, call it, big tickets when it comes to financing.
Okay. Yeah, no, but that's a sound strategy, especially if by the last time we talked to each other, like the mining for the resource is, it's not the most complex, work that you have to do. Just a recap, like how when you go on your land package, let's say that you did have so you found the funding to do some exploration and to do to mine the resource. How would you go about it? Just so that people understand maybe the differences with in comparison to other minerals, because it's not the same game as gold or silver or copper.
Right. It's kind. You mean how would we go about mining it?
Yeah.
We ourselves, we don't. You probably know this or remember. We don't really intend to get into the mining business on any major scale. But if we were going to mine, a part of the property, it would really just involve, digging up, a place where you have a known resource, and then you have to use blasting. The rock is relatively hard. Some graphite deposits are soft rock. This one isn't. But those are often amorphous graphite deposits, where we have a deposit skewed toward flake graphite rather than amorphous. But you would have to blast, and then you would crush the material and then float it, and you've got a graphite concentrate. And like an anode material manufacturer, because if we're talking electric vehicles, graphite forms almost the entire anode side of the battery. So part of that anode manufacturing process is turning a graphite concentrate into a much more pure form of graphite, 99.9 something percent put in battery anode materials. So that's not a part of the supply chain we ever intend to get involved in. We would just produce a graphite concentrate if we ended up being forced into mining or something like that, or doing it on a small scale. And we would sell that concentrate rather than go into the further downstream part of the business.
So right now, the main objective for 2025 is proving up as much as you can to show to commercial investors, it's here. E-Power is open for business. Let's hammer out deals. Let's make good contacts, and prove that this is one of the major discoveries in Canada and North America.
Give them some of that material and perhaps get them addicted to that material. Show them the graphite, let them see it works for their manufacturing process, and then going about making sure we have enough for that particular future customer.
And is this a strategy that is often, because I know that Nouveau Monde made a big deal with, I believe, Panasonic. And so is this like the type of structure that usually goes with graphite, since the end users, the manufacturers, well, they all have different specs. They all have their their different cooking, if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's the way it's going to go. Really, there hasn't been any significant graphite production from North America since about 1960. So, except there is one company producing graphite in Quebec, and that mine was until recently owned by an industrial player, a French company, who use it in production processes. So, but that has now, that's gone into a Canadian junior essentially. So that's really the only one in North America producing. But I think the business is going to go that way. What some of our peer companies have done is tried to build not only find graphite in the ground, but try to build more downstream capacity. And Nouveau Monde did that. In other words, get into call it the battery anode material manufacturing business. They see it as there are higher margins in there. There's also a lot higher capex because you've got to build a factory. So I think it's going to go that way. It just hasn't really quite developed yet. But Nouveau Monde was the first transaction where they have graphite in the ground. They have two of those 10 serious graphite properties in North America. And, and they also have developed they're developing some downstream production capacity to make battery anode material. And they recently essentially came under the control of, General Motors, Panasonic, and Mitsui. So, the industrial players, I think, are really going to be the ones who, end up owning these graphite properties because they just need to. I mean, imagine building a $4 billion factory only to find, there's nowhere to get graphite for this. So they're going to have to own these properties and find quite a few more as well.
And have you been in contact with some of these major players, or?
Yeah, we have, and still are. Sometimes because they're not used to this kind of situation, they don't always know the right questions to ask. It's in the old days, maybe before 2020, you just called your broker and you have all the manganese you need on Thursday or something like that. But so I don't think some of the traditional manufacturing companies are used to raw material shortages, especially graphite, because graphite was always, reasonably plentiful in supply until, one of the major drivers anyway is electric vehicle battery anodes. So they're not used to having any trouble getting the material. And, you have two types of manufacturers building electric cars. The new ones, like a Northvolt, that's a company that didn't exist about 10 years ago. And it's, one of those things put together by some major investment banks and they've launched a new business around the whole thing. And then there are the traditional ones like Volkswagen or Mercedes-Benz. And they're not used to the problem. The other guys are new businesses entirely. So they're, in some ways not used to any problem. So, it's a new world and they haven't quite all figured out how to deal with it. And if you notice, they don't seem to talk about it very much.
No.
You'll hear Tesla talk about nickel, but there's nickel all over the place, and but they don't mention graphite very much, if at all. And you see that with the other manufacturers as well. So they don't always know the right questions to ask. They're not used to dealing with this, and I don't think they're used to, getting into a more upstream part of their own supply chain because they just didn't have to. Back then, just, a few years ago, you could have graphite sellers compete for your business. And now it's the other way around, but they haven't really I guess, prepared their own supply chains and business for that yet.
Well, I'm pretty sure that all the companies that are using graphite, they're not talking about it, but it's a question that's probably being thrown around in the boardrooms, and it's probably a big worry. And they just, they're getting up to speed slowly, so that poises a company like E-Power in a good position, saying, well, when you guys are ready, we're here.
Yeah, and the price is, a lot more right than it's probably ever going to be again. So, because equity prices across the board in graphite players or upstream graphite players are very low. So, if they can act fast and fix that problem for themselves, it's still possible. You have of those 10 properties, two of them are now gone. That supply is now spoken for, or potential supply, and there are 8 left. But again, you probably need another 38 rather than just 8. So as a couple more of those get bought or taken out or controlled in some fashion, there's probably going to be more urgency around the remaining ones, and that's when prices of the equity start to go up. When the retail market and even institutional decide they want to front run the industrial players and get in there first before industry does, then I think that's when you'll see things start happening a lot faster. But it's only been 9 months since the first deal announced in February that Nouveau Monde did. So it's still early days, but once that trend really gets going, and remember that's 2 of the 10 properties, so there are only 8 left. You could say we're 20% of the way into the trend already, and so yeah, once it heats up with one more, I think the rest will go fast.
Awesome. So just to recap, all in all, you had some promising bulk samples on pretty much both ends of your Tedespica property. You successfully completed 2/3 of your financing that was done in tranches, and if projections are accurate, the thing is almost done.
Yeah.
So it's a not bad end to 2024 if we look at it.
Yeah, it's a good way to wrap up 2024. Yeah, and we're looking forward to 2025. I think it's gonna be a lot different. 2024 was something graphite players or upstream graphite players like us had to survive, and now it looks as though it's behind us. I mean, we've been public for almost 2 years now, and never filled up a financing goal before. So we set out to raise 420,000 in this one. We've already closed 370, and it looks as though we'll close more than the 420. So that hasn't happened yet. So you could say maybe 2024 is already ending, that time where we had to survive.
That's good news. That's music to my ears. That's music to your shareholders. And if people that listen to this or see this and they catch it in time, if they want to get in touch with you, they just have to go on your website and they can hit you up via email and give you a call. And
any time we're happy to take calls from investors or people who just would like to learn more about the company.
And the stock is EPR, traded on the CSE. Am I correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for your time, James. And always good to hear from you. And I'm really happy that your financing is going the way that you wanted. And it's always good when you get to break the ground and be able to say that it's the first one that that you didn't have to fall short.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Jean-Michel. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, and you have yourself a great day, James.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and comment down below what you thought of the video. Don't forget to watch our latest video right over there. Click it, come on, I know you want to. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!